What kind of man sits across from me right now?
My whole life has been geared towards change, without a knowing of where that is headed. But a change that's led by growth, and a growth that's led by discomfort and newness. Um and a conversation with the earth, and that's what I've done for myself always.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Going Out Looking In, the podcast about the big questions of life, personal growth, and spirituality. My name is Maxi. I'm your host, and I'm checking in from near Gainesville, Florida. And all of you beautiful, attentive listeners, you know what that means. That means I'm very close to Michael Singer and the Temple of the Universe. It is happening, guys. It's happening. I arrived yesterday evening, straight went to a yoga class and then a talk of Mickey, and that will be a separate episode for sure about that experience. The best is yet to come, let's just put it that way. And I'm going back and forth to the temple twice a day for morning and evening services. So I'll check in about that in a bit. Let me just tell you that my heart is so open. There's a lot of tears coming. There's a lot of surrender happening right now as we speak. This is my camper van. This is Freddie. We've been on the road for nearly 2 weeks now, and transformative time of my life. So I feel like this episode is really, it has a very special quality to it. It has a very unique flavor, something that is different than other episodes, simply because how it came to be. And that is because I'm speaking, first of all, with Alec Lautauro Solimeo. What a name. Alec and I, we connected in LA at Convergence, Sacred Sons. And literally connected as I'm walking off, I literally say goodbye to everyone, about to get in the car with Vince. And basically just saying something like, gonna be in Colorado or something like that. And Alec is like, oh, Colorado, that's where I'm from. Hit me up once you're there. I'm like, okay, well, sure. So a couple of days later, I'm with Vince, we're hanging out, and I'm texting Alec, and I'm like, okay, dude, man, like I'm coming, I'm going to Denver. So he's like, okay, well, we can make it happen. So literally a couple of days later, I show up at his door, having spent 60 seconds with him, and he opens. We had that little small talk, and he's like, so what brings you to the US? And I'm like, well, besides this, that, and the other, it's the podcast, really. It's me going out, looking in, having conversations with people. And so I was like, okay, well, we should do a podcast then. And I'm like, okay, surrender right there. So we packed the stuff and we drove to one of his favorite spots in nature, a beautiful, very special sacred place near a river. And I set up the microphones, and we hit the ground running within an hour after my arrival at his place. So this conversation, obviously, because I didn't have any context, I didn't have any time to prepare, is a very special moment in time. It really captured the essence of how two men can meet with a obviously very similar set of values, because we're coming out of convergence, we're coming out of deep work with men. And that's what Alec is doing for a while. He's a mystic. He's somebody who understands everything between heaven and earth, you know, everything in between very well. He is a very wise being with a deep understanding and sensitivity towards the elements and towards the ethereal quality of nature and spirit. It was an honor to sit down with him. So much fun. I had the most beautiful time with him. And Paula, if you're listening to this, she's an incredible artist. It was just like a trio, 3 of us, you know, going back and forth in the mountains. We did cold, like, river plunging and went out on hikes and did all kind of ceremony, and it was just absolutely beautiful. So this episode is dedicated to this time, and I'm so glad I did it, and that I have this vehicle to also, for me, capsule those moments in time and save them for eternity. So thank you so much for sticking with me. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening. I love you. Much love. Okay, this is Maxi checking in. Yeah, so my system, barely catching on. I gotta tell you. I haven't really fully arrived, even on this soil, on this land. The experiences are going deep, and we just happened to meet each other a couple of days ago at Convergence. Now I am sharing time and space with you at your house, so I'm your guest, which I'm very grateful for. And at the same time, you're my guest in this medium right here.
Thank you for having me.
So that being said, thank you and welcome, Alec.
Mahalo, brother Maxi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, glad to be here.
So we literally just an hour ago connected. And I drove out from Denver to your place. It's just like a little glimpse of how this is all looking like. Sure, I'm gonna be getting some more taste of the surroundings tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. But we're at a very specific place right now. So why don't we just start right there? What's this place? What does it mean to you, and how did it come about?
Yeah, well, we're at the Lions Ceremonial Labyrinth, put together at the hands of local grandmothers and their helpers, for the place for the local community to gather. You know, this is a tourist town. During the busy season, it can get really busy in our most sacred places. So these grandmothers, built this sort of just at the edge of town labyrinth for us to come and meander into and through and back out again. While being held by the trees and the sound of the river and usually our friends and kids and local ones who have found their way here. This is a special place. We're at the foothills of the beginning of the American rocky orogeny where it all begins to lift from here. If you were driving from the east to here, you just passed thousands of miles of flats and prairie, and we're just right at that precipice of the orogeny, and this mystical uplift and erosion patterns that create Colorado to be just this endless myriad of just beauty, endless, like undiscoverable, all of it, just huge in its magnitude, as you've already seen just from driving from Denver to Boulder, just big sky.
It's alive. It's really alive. It's really vibrant. Feel that. It's word that keeps coming to me, and it kept coming to me throughout Convergence, because also Hunter was basically really introducing that concept to us, is expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction. I feel very expanded here, gotta tell you, man. Everything. My whole system feels very expanded here. And that's just by the sheer dimension of land, of wild country, of soil that has not been any way, shape or form penetrated by humans. It's just somewhat, it just is.
Well, place is such an important facet of what builds culture for any human, and for me, born in New Jersey, a place where the highest density state in this country, to coming out to Colorado has just endlessly expanded, but from my breath to my sight to just the peace in my heart, for years, to start attuning to the vibration here in this expanse, where there is so much more nature than there really can be man, even in the, there's the city centers for sure, no doubt, but on the magnitude of the size of Colorado, there's not very many of them.
So on this day, sitting here right now, everything that happened throughout the last couple of days, what's alive for you?
I am really, came back from working an amazing convergence aid with the Sacred Sons, and I've just been taking care of myself and being in prayer and being real slow. I had a beautiful little test right out the gates to like invite me to go into like fear or scarcity or whatever places this was trying to chase me, and and just actually looked into brother's eyes, and he looked into mine, and he's like, hey, let's go jump in the river and go to the hot spring. And so we did, and that was just my first night back, where usually you start getting it ready for work and this, that, and the other, and instead I went the opposite direction of where or that fear or any of those familiar friends of fear were trying to lead me. And and it feels real good, and it's led to a great week with lots of good communication with lots of good humans, and like I said, the working with prayer medicines, and now arriving so expanded and among a journey and a self-proclaimed rite of passage, self-initiation stage. And so I feel blessed to receive you in what I guess feels sort of like the middle of it, I guess, with the big on the front and the big that will come. It feels real good to have you here, just me and you, among these stones and trees and river and coming night sky, and just getting to attune with you to the pace that we're gonna roll the next couple days. Because you're coming to prayer with me, like from here on out, darn near, until you leave, and so it's gonna be good.
Yeah, it's an honor for me too, man. I just start to, yeah, open up to this whole universe of love in a way that I have not received in ever, really. It's an ocean of connection that I'm bathing in throughout this whole trip, man, because I'm at the hands of people that I sometimes know better, sometimes not as much, but all there is a connection from heart to heart, from soul to soul, and everybody has been taking great care of me. Um, I can't always buy my way out of things. Always, I can always book a hotel or stay somewhere, get worldly things and all that. But it has truly been this surrender into the hands of humans, really. It started in Ireland. It went to the UK. Different planes, different cultures, different sometimes even languages, and then all the way to LA, then to Convergence. Now I'm here. I'll be so. I'm just trying to be this vessel for whatever has to come through, and yeah, this this right here, this co-creation right now, is a testament to how wonderfully the universe might sometimes is just playing out. So
Well, and here I'm going to trip us out even a little further. I learned that lesson in Ireland too, about graciousness and like extending the hand, and first by a soccer mom who picked me up as I was trying to find the Sleeve League in Donegal. And I was just hitchhiking, just throwing my thumb. Woman picks me up with 5 kids in her car and just throws me in. In America, that don't happen much. So I was blown away with that. And then after I left the Donegal County area, instead of headed towards Galway, connected with a man named Fergal. Forever, will never ever forget you, brother, man. Like, he was like a soil farmer, and he just drove us around for 2 days. He just changed his flow and like just was with us and made sure we got where we wanted and saw other things. And yeah, yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, for sure. And I was, yeah, young, 18, 19 years old at the time or so, and yeah, fully with me.
And those are the things that we keep talking about, right? So yeah, it is. It's yeah. I had to do that as much as you had to do that. I guess when you were 19, and so man, I want to get to know you, man. I feel like I got a little bit of story I got from you, and you touched on it briefly, New Jersey and all that, and your pops and your mom and your family, man. You got 2 kids, but I guess what's underneath, what 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 kind of man sits across from me right now?
My whole life has been geared towards change, without a knowing of where that is headed, but like a change that's led by growth, and a growth that's led by discomfort and newness, um, and a conversation with the earth, and that's what I've done for myself always. Whether it was stepping in to be a family man, or getting out of New Jersey, or getting to Europe, or getting any of the young travels in, or trying to become a cattle rancher in a land of cattle ranchers when I'm a kid from New Jersey, to going into prayer circles with no upbringing at all about the importance or the understanding of why to pray or how to pray, or I feel like I've walked my whole life as a very distinguished orphan who's looking for his like home and culture. and have been willing to like literally try to plant it in the way of food and baby animals and baby humans, and see what happens when you do those things differently. You know, when you don't raise your kid like everybody else, but you tell them the things that you think, or you know, really do treat them as an equal, or you don't make them become you, or you like make sure that they have a voice. Or not make sure, but just create that space so that their voice can come out. Yeah, my father and a farmer, you know, and that's and still in training, you know, like you never get it either of those right. There is no end, um, and so they're real dynamic, right? And so it just has kept me, yeah, I feel alive and well, you know.
Mm-hmm. What's home for you?
Mm. I am home. Home, I am home. Found the place that feeds my soul. It is right here, we are right here, under the mountains and the sun. River is so clear, river is so clear. Ah. Yeah. That's what home has been for me for the last year, that song, for sure.
Mm-hmm. How did fatherhood change you?
Well, my first bout at fatherhood was with a child that wasn't mine. Um, it changed everything about me. It showed lots of the weaknesses. It definitely as uh, a man who stepped in for a at that time fatherless child. Um, yeah, the first thing it taught me was where I didn't have patience, and where I wasn't loving, and where I was overly self-driven and not wanting to share the love of a woman with another, even if that other was the son of the woman. Um, it showed me that love isn't big brothering or bullying. And that was the initial stages of fathering for me, was a really kick-ass hard down time in life where I wasn't doing it right, like ever, and didn't know how to, because it just wasn't in me. It wasn't instilled to be a father. I don't know if it ever is. I'm not sure if you can, like, I'm sure you can. I'm sure you can instill it in the youth better.
How old were you?
Yeah, 21, 22, 22 at the most. Yeah, um, and yeah, you know, I just took a piece of advice from the kid's grandfather, which was just be consistent. And I'm a big brother, so I was like, okay, well, I won't try and be his dad, so I'll be his big brother. And unfortunately, in that role of big brothering, there's a lot of not proper behavior when it comes to how you're supposed to love and parent a child. You know, yeah, and so in my bout to try to be consistent, yeah, for a while I was, until it, you know, until it just finally shattered open and had without ever realization that, like, oh gosh, yeah, this all needs to dismember and be remembered again, because this isn't how you do it. It really came with just my children being birthed into this world, and in that instant, I remembered being taught what love feels like.
Mm.
Like, oh, oh, there's that me, that seed. Oh, love, like instant, you know, do anything to protect, you know, like, yeah. So that was, yeah, that was all very big, especially, yeah, especially the dark, you know. Yeah, there's lots of stories of what I've learned as a dad that's made me stronger, you know, and in a valiant way. You know, taught my kids to farm and milk goats and what vegetables are and that they grow from seeds, and, you know, and how to talk to trees, and, you know, blah blah blah, or at least that it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
um, but but yeah, there's the truth, and the truth is, yeah, that the most I've learned from fathering is where I was an adequate father, and how to grow into that role of the father archetype better.
Right.
And so, yeah, God bless Ziggy Mario Akin Adkins, my stepson, or whatever you'd like to call him. These days, I don't think that title really makes sense. He is his own man, so we'll just call him by his name, Ziggy Mario Akin Adkins. Certainly not owned or possessed by my anything. Yeah, so, yeah, all gratitude to him for holding that space for me to learn, and apologies for any of the imprints that were longer lasting in the negative that yeah we're trying to undo the ancestral grief and wounds, not further them, but
Yes, sir.
but there is that truth and reality. We all come from somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, feel into that now, real. So this happens. Yeah, feel the weight. Feel the responsibility. Yet the unconditional love. Anger, fear, sadness, grief, helplessness, power. Being human. Being human. When I feel into the ceremonial things you are doing and bringing into the world, and we can talk about that as well, what it entitles and what it entails for you. What I would be interested in, what it means for you to be human. Right now.
An acceptance of the pain. Like, maybe not what it means to be human on like the large scale, but what I guess I feel a lot of humanity needs to, a lot of my kin, a lot of my neighbors, and what I need to be willing to turn further into is like just that they're finding the love for the pain. Like, because aging and all of this life stuff, just, it does happen, like, and my teachers taught that the warding away from the pain, the not recognition of it, the inability to sing to it, praise it, creates that suffering. It is where the disease begins, when we start to resist what's before us, like for tomorrow, we're going to intentionally put ourselves into cold river, without fire, without just our breath and community. And we're going to put ourselves into the pain to release the suffering.
Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional.
Simple way to look at it, yeah.
I've heard that before. Rings true to me. Essential part for me being human is experiencing pain, but does it need to be suffering? That's what I'm what I'm asking myself. And so with that being said, and moving into your role as somebody working within an organization that is Sacred Sons, what and the work we are doing. How would you describe your contribution to that and your role in that?
Mm. You know, the Sacred Sons is like this amazing dragon head that's super beautiful, like all of the colors, you know, and all of the things, and it's leading so much body behind it, you know, and so much potential force and mystic like revival of man's spirit. And I believed that before ever meeting them in person. And in going to become one with them, I feel I just get to become like a leg, you know, and you know, a support for that head, you know, part of the integral body of in the motion of this thing, um, being willing to be guided and intending to guide as well with the downloads that have been provided to me in my life, um, as we're all doing when we go there, right? Um, yeah, I walk in a student of grief, you know, a study of the internal pain of my heart, you know, and I wear it proudly in there, and I show men that it's a very proud thing to wear there and to put out and to pick your chin up and your chest and widen your wings and let that air create that water from the eyes, um, to water the earth. You know, I deeply believe that in whatever portion of it, those of us who are gathering in that way and continue to show up in that way, you know, we're riding the rainbow like towards the prophecy. We want to be the change, you know, in this world and defend it. Not necessarily we want to be the change, but we want to be there to protect it, you know, be the proper fathers for what births from a bit more freedom that's directed in the right way, and a bit more reverence that's held closer to the individual than just the material that they may wear or own. Um, yeah, I'm there to be part of the family. You know, I'm meeting my father again there, you know, in the ways of the elders, and I'm definitely meeting my brothers there, and my nephews, and my uncles, and my sons, and we're gathering around a fire that was lit thousands and thousands of years ago, um, and it's a privilege to just dance in it mythically, not necessarily, you know, knowing what my pitch is and just letting them be dynamic one event to the next, or moment to the next, and learn to be more in my own flow, um, in that moment of leadership, to again, right, just be a reflection. um, yeah, reverence for song, prayer, dance, and grief. Those are, yeah, all those words sum down to 10.
Hmm. Yeah. So you are very connected to the old ways, to spirit and everything in between, and rituals that come along with that. How did you come in touch with that, and maybe what kind of role, you were speaking into that earlier when we met, what kind of role does farming and your work with the earth play in your role as a facilitator, and also as somebody who is working with, yeah, I guess, you know, ceremonial prayers and rituals?
Thanks, bro, for going into your heart. First off, it's a lot of words to properly sit with and gear somebody in a good way. You know, the self initiation started with medicine, right? Started taking drugs as a young person. And that, and thankfully, I didn't go too far, and I stayed. My ballpark, my venue was LSD, and it just showed me very specifically the flicker in the trees when the sun is shining through on a windy day. And it taught me that this one time. It made it so important that I was never able to like walk away from that. And so I just followed nature. So I feel like I just got dumb lucky, right? And I picked the right college or the right teacher or the right, you know, except for it didn't necessarily like, there was no syllabus and the directions weren't quite clear. And so nature inevitably leads you to indigenous prayer, I think. First it was recreation and camping and rock climbing and skiing and, being out in it and just, believing and understanding. And at that time it was how I could connect, and then the more you connect and the more you connect, yeah, it sort of calls you in to not necessarily just climb up it or put a ski hill on it or or drive your biggest truck to it or whatever, but to sit and to be with it. And the people who are sitting there being with it are generally those of an indigenous community or origin or prayer. And so, yeah, God bless her heart. My ex-wife, yeah, got me to that fire that I spoke of earlier. That ancestral fire that's just been there. It's always there. We just have to be going and getting it, and we just have to be stepping in, right? Just like the men's work, right? Same deal. Brotherhood is the medicine, right? We just got to step in. Yeah, and same deal with prayer, and with your own indigenosity. We can be imperial-minded humans who are led by the generations that fall out from the different empires that led the world. Or we can, close our eyes and hear on our hearts that, our mothers and our aunties and a lot of our uncles and fathers were slain for their nature-based beliefs, killed off. And we could take the, president to begin again. Beat the drum, know the animal, know the plant, learn your relations, begin to birth culture. It's always just waiting right here for us. That's what, yeah, they say, it's all right here. We just got to plant ourselves long enough to remember,
I had this word come up, and now you finish it off with exactly that one. It's remember. It's not, doesn't seem like something new. It doesn't seem like something that we create. It doesn't seem like something that's been born or has to be reborn or has to be even discovered. I think remembering is even more powerful in that context. It's like yeah, let's say discover. Like discover would mean that it has not been there until you find it, whereas remembering it's always been there. You just didn't see it, or you forgot it,
Yeah.
and so you remember,
Yeah.
and so you remember.
Yeah, I like connecting it too to. I'll invite us to close our eyes and see yourself fully dismembered, almost like taken apart at every joint, right? And you're this. I don't know. I guess I should figure it out, but you're this many beings, right? We've been dismembered. We've fallen apart. That's like the awakening into the grief, the like beginning to remember again, the like coming into the like that first time that you cry because something's just so fucking beautiful and you're seeing it right before your eyes. And then the invitation becomes, yeah, this remembering of putting yourself back together again and building yourself back up. And there's gonna be maybe points for me, right? I feel like I guess uh, I have a lot of remembering still to do in my lower, in my sacral, in my the home of my desires. You know, still too led there, and so I'm still remembering how to just love myself enough that I don't need to go outside of self. And we start just continuing a whole life of putting ourselves back together again, and no, and inviting the permission to go back and rework things to grow again and further. And I've begun to see myself just start to come into this really big, beautiful, majestic being where age and time and experience are all there, but like the moment in this moment is something beyond all of that. And we can really step in and we can give it our all, whether it's a podcast interview or a cold plunge or a spar with a brother or a personal meditation or a breath work in the morning or a how well you make your bed or, yeah, the doing of the dishes. So as we remember ourselves back together, you know, it's just been a privilege to get to see what we meet, what those reflections are, who the men and the women are that are crossing our path or we're calling in or just having that fanciful thought of how awesome it was to see them smile or how colorful they were because they blazed their beauty from their home country and brought it to ours and sung their songs and invited us to their fire as we invited them to ours. So may we all continue on this path of remembrance that Maxie, the Sacred Sons, and myself are so much falling in love with.
Thank you. I received that. Let us remember.
And maybe we can cut and do a round two someday when the sun's out. Check one.
I wanna um I wanna ask you what the world needs more of.
A, children. B, farmers. And C, love. And I'm not that guy. Oh, it was never that guy. The love and the light. But I'm learning how important that last one is.
What do we need less of?
The delusion of freedom. Earth-saving technologies. An imbalanced exploitation of commodifiable raw goods from the earth.
In your experience and your work with men, what can we do individually to help things that we need more of to come into life, and the things that we need less of to not continue to come into our lives?
Yeah, well, this ship sails on the waves of, how I want to say that. Ask your question one more time.
What can we do from
As men, was what you said.
as men, and especially coming from your experience with working with men, what can we do individually to help those things come to life or get out of life, depending on what it is that we need or not need?
Yeah, so this brothership, it sails on the waves of male trauma, right? Because if we were all intact and together, we wouldn't necessarily be needing to gather in the way that we currently are, because we'd already be gathering. The fire would already be lit just in your hometown. You wouldn't need to leave your brothers from childhood, you know? You all would be doing this. We all would be doing this. I'd have been doing this with my brothers. And so we're going after male trauma. My affirmation is, or whatever, I guess not an affirmation, something I'm holding in my heart is, you heal male trauma, you heal female and child trauma and environmental trauma and the rest, because I just have a hard time not believing that it all doesn't stem from the masculine side of the masculine, right? An imbalanced masculine, therefore, right? The one side of that duality, the man, not the balanced man within his masculine and feminine. And so we're just starting here at home, because we're all infected by it, just us ourselves. For me, my teacher, Martin Prechtel, he poses you before your imperial mind and your indigenous soul. And this is the balancing act. We're stuck predominantly within that imperial mind. How can we utilize the mind in and of itself to begin learning practices and ways of an indigenous soul that we can slowly, like generationally, transition, therefore adapt, therefore attempt to pave a way for evolution, right? Like, I'm not a big believer in like it's our we can choose to adapt. I feel like evolution's like a generational concept that has to be adopted by your children and their children and the children after them. And one of the problems in society I feel, is that, we've just lost that, We're not carrying stories anymore, so much, migration and refugee type of behaviors that just, we all come to the new land and you're told that you got to forget the story, It's time to start remembering a story. Make it up. Origin stories,
Why does this work with men matter to you?
I feel I was at a plateau on the self actualization scale, right? Like as though there's like a growth ceiling that you can climb the ladder, you know, by doing this and doing that and, you know, having these practices and this practice. And but then at some point in reality, all of that has to be put within community. And not necessarily just a community that we choose to. That's the catch. And the beauty of Sacred Sons is that it's always such a hodgepodge. You know, it's not necessarily just my local dance community or my local community that gathers at this space or this local medicine community or whatever the case, right? And so you bring yourself in there to be shown where there's greatness outside of that greatness that you hold. So you're shown instantly like, oh, I can embody more spirituality by like going that way or bringing that into my being. Or, oh, wow, look at him. He does flips. Like, wow, that's a physical feat that I'm not capable of. Maybe I could work to get closer to that, you know? Like, you know, whatever vibes with you, really, right? It's not that you have to pick up every trait of all people. But for me, in circling in with men, it's, just provided, you know, streetlights onto paths, you know, little fireflies of different paths to take and know that there's that brother over there who does that too and feel sort of connected in spirit by that. You know, I could say I trained to fight because of like Michael Hanna and Joey Lee and Alec and like those men, you know, like and I really find my voice and my desire to sing because of Hunter and Kai and my desire to study and learn from Matoska and my desire to be big and present and in my power from Bearhard and Adam Jackson and you know and to be diligent and in my practice like Anton and beautiful like Earl Sagewolf and you know like and all the other brothers. Sorry there if you didn't get on that list. I do love you and I do see you. You know, that's why I do men's work. You know, and we got our own story locally in the Primal Brotherhood. You know, I could say that all those same characteristics with a whole other group of men, you know. Tim Fierro brings the music, you know. Mesa Mostajo bringing the spirit. Alec Rubin bringing the physical excellence. You know, like, yeah. Yeah. And we all get to then, I've often described it as, you know, it's this pot-stirring cauldron of culture. Put in your ingredients, and we'll stir that shit up, and we'll see what we get. You know?
Yeah, we need more of that. We need the pot stirred, man. Because as we remember individually, we can remember collectively. And that is, as you and I, as participants or witness of convergence, have experienced firsthand and again. It's just when we remember together, when we stir the pot, there's medicine to be received for many men. Let's get the message out, and it's getting chilly. It's getting cold.
Yeah.
To be quite honest,
we did really good though. Everybody, you'd be impressed. He's doing great. He just got to Colorado.
Yeah. Well, I'm from Germany, so
he's from Germany.
I'm used to the cold. I'm just not dressed for the cold, really.
Me neither.
So I would ask those two questions. All my guests and.
Okay.
And I'm very excited on how you will answer them. So the first one is, what are you proud of?
Yeah, I think I first met my proudness in Maui speaking with Matthew Nall and Michael Hanna. And I remember looking into their eyes, beginning to cry, telling them that I would be okay if God needed to take me today because I have my children and a relationship with the earth that means something to me in a big way. So family and family. Yeah.
Love that. Thank you. And what are you looking forward to?
That's a big one for me, you know. We spoke briefly. I've been raising kids since I was 22 years old. I'm 41. My youngest are 13 and 14. So I've been like breathing into that question for the last couple years and feel I'm in an era where I'm doing the homework on that. I'm looking forward to just life, every day of it, everything that we're creating, every step, every moment, the dull ones, the sad ones, the happy ones. And I also think I'm still figuring that out. Like, yeah. That one's open book. I invite in, though, any amazing, beautiful, international, women that want to travel the world with me as I crest over that 5-year pattern to jump on the ship. And let's go travel.
Thank you, Alec.
Yeah, brother. Thank you for coming home here with me.
Appreciate you.